Alrighty. Hello, my name is Finn, and I will be commentating today the scrim between UCF Academy and Hollow Esports. Presently, we have yet to set up a lobby, um, but I am sure that it'll happen soon. Um, what we can expect today, I think we're gonna see probably some Z contested by UCF Academy team, where we're probably going to get a Z ban, a Jin ban, a Thresh ban. Stay Frosty is very, very monstrous on Z, the mid laner for UCF. So I expect to see him show up in draft. I'm not actually sure which team is starting which side, but I am sure we will come to find out. Um, in the bot lane, we can expect a bit of Jinx gameplay. Both ADCs have been looking at the character recently. Jinx is also pretty prominent, pretty strong. It would not surprise me for her to have a bit of presence. Um, Obviously, Yunara is a pretty strong champion right now, but neither of the ADCs playing today play an especially large amount of Yunara. Hollow Esports ADC Junard has played a trace amount. If there is a showing, it'll be on the side of Hollow Esports. I'm expecting a lot more uh, Kaisa, Zaya, Caitlyn, um, and from UCF, probably some Jin, Corki, Aphelios, is what Fireball is more of a fan of. And this match is the first of Hollow Esports that I've casted. I also want to say it's the first of UCF's Academy team that I've casted. Um, I've definitely casted a team from UCF before, probably one of their slightly lower teams, maybe higher. I don't know. I think UCF has like five different teams, so it's hard to say which of them I have previously talked about. Hollow Esports um, has a couple of members I'm familiar with. Mike Beeston, Key, Sergeant Goblin are all players I've casted before. Spry Rain and Junard, maybe their names are kind of familiar to me, um, but not 100%. I'm not exactly sure what to expect from both teams. Um, from what I've casted of Mike Beeston, the jungler for Hollow Esports, I know he's a very team lead kind of player. He likes to play a lot of carried champs, and I know he likes to play dive combo comps. So I would not be surprised to see some of that out of him today, or out of Hollow Esports today. And Fireball also likes playing more immobile ADCs, so I think um, more aggressive compositions will work out in Hollow Esports' favor. Spryrain also likes playing carry top laners, so it could be a little difficult for the composition of Hollow Esports to build around two carry players. not in the ADC role, but I have confidence they'll get it done. Currently, UCF Academy will be having a sub today. Normally, they have Death Note in the jungle, a very powerful player. Viego, kind of a one trick. He plays just an outrageous amount of Viego, and he's quite good on the character. I was actually looking forward to seeing how that would affect the draft today because Mike Beeston is also quite a prominent Viego player. Um, Subbing in for him is a top laner player who has a bit of experience in the jungle as well. Weemeister plays Skarner, Zac, Olaf, Poppy, Aatrox, Shen. There's a lot of characters that have a mix into the jungle. And he also has a bit of experience on Maokai, Rek'Sai, Fiddlesticks, which is a very wide range of characters. Rek'Sai and Fiddlesticks are a lot closer to each other. They're sort of jump at you, very ganking junglers. Um, but the Maokai, Skarner, Zac, this guy has a lot of tankier characters in his roster, which I think works well with the rest of his team. Proof Opossum has less tanks and more bruisers in his lineup, so I think that champion diversity between the two of them will complement each other well. Um, Stay Frosty, the mid laner for UCF Academy, does have a lot of AD characters that he has experience on. I would not be surprised to see an AD mid lane, um, but it might be kind of hard to draft around that, just because both Weemeister and Proof Opossum don't really play AV characters. And there is, unfortunately, no time on Ziggs for Fireball. Um, and I doubt we'd be seeing an AP Kaisa coming out of the bot lane. So I think that will pose some challenges. I would not be surprised to see Echo Malzahar showing up in this draft just because of Stay Frosty's inexperience with mages, I suppose. Um, the mid laner for UNF, also has a good amount of time on Yasuo and Talia. I think those are the two characters we're going to be seeing a bit from UNF's mid lane to really look for. Um, I know, or not UNF, I'm so sorry. Hollow Esports. I'm just so used to casting UNF. It's the first time I think I've casted a league game that doesn't feature them. But from Hollow Esports mid lane, I would be surprised to see a lot of AD characters. I think that just because Mike Beeston plays so many AD characters, it'll be tough to slot that in. However, just because of Key's experience on Yasuo, I would not leave it out of the running. Um, and Key as well does have a bit more time on some mages. Um, Syndra, Aurora are both characters we could see alongside the Talia. We'll see if UCF counts that in for their draft. And it looks like the lobby has been made. Will be squeezing my way into it, possibly. Yep, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm excited. Um, Ordelian is not a name I expected. I will be looking into this character while I have the time. Now, it's completely possible this is a another account for Proof of Possum, but based off of the champs I see this guy playing, I'm thinking probably not. And Ordelian, now I know, is a set player, possibly. Let's look at their mastery. Okay, a good amount of time on Riven, above all else. And then this season, we're seeing time on a set, Cassante, Pantheon, a bit of Kled in there, a very unique champion. Very difficult to play champion. Very mechanically demanding. Nordelian seems like maybe a little low rank compared to the rest of the lobby. Might be a little tough to force them onto the Kled. Oh no, Proof of Possum isn't here. He's the support. Okay. So Niffler is the player that is missing. Got it. Now I will read upon the characters that Proof of Possum plays in the support role. Once again, not expected from this game. But Proof of Possum definitely has been putting in the hours. We've got time on Karma, Sona, Rom, Nico, a bit of Pantheon himself. And he's, over the past couple of days, put a lot of time into Swain, so I would not be surprised if that were to show up in this draft. He's got time on Shaco. Don't know if I should necessarily count that. But it is worth mentioning. Time on Vel'Koz and Leona. I have been kindly gifted the draft link, so we will be switching our view over just as soon as we get the chance. Boom. In the draft. Draft is not up at the moment. So just to reaffirm, we do have Ordelian in the top lane. Weemeister is substituting in for the jungle, and Proof of Possum, which is the normal top laner for UCF, presently in the support lane. So a bit of a roster switch up today on the side of UCF. I don't know how well that's going to go for them necessarily. They're not against a weak team by any means. Um, but I am sure if they've gone and made this choice, that it is a choice made with good intent. These players do not intend to just roll over and give up this game, but I think they're going to have to fight a little bit harder than normal for it. Our draft is called on both sides, so I will expect this drafter to start momentarily. But I suppose we'll see. It looks like Hollow Esports is starting on the blue side. Um, there's not a lot of champion overlap between the two teams in regards to what each team particularly enjoys playing. I will expect a Kindred and a Viego ban from the UCF. I think if either of those characters get through, we should definitely see it come out on the side of Hollow Esports. I think playing around these very strong carry champs is definitely a good ploy, but we'll just have to see. First ban will be Galileo. Is one of the few non-AD characters that Stay Frosty plays. I think it is an excellent ban. Definitely limits their team quite a lot, and we do see that Viego get banned by UCF. We also see a Cassidon ban coming out from Hollow Esports. I didn't see a lot of playtime on that character when I was looking over Stay Frosty, but I must have just missed it. UCF bans out the Nami. Um, Definitely a very prominent support right now, and it's not one that Proof Opossum plays, so they're really just concerned about it. Braum banned out by Hollow Esports. Notably, a pretty good support with Jinx. So it could be that they're expecting Fireball to choose Jinx by letting it slip through the bans, and they have a good plan to counter it. UCF bans Talia, which Talia is just a very good character into the roster of Stay Frosty. We do see Zach picked for Hollow Esports. I think this is probably a top lane Zach. I didn't see a lot of time on Zach from either Spry Rain or Mike Beeston. Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's first pick, it's probably the jungle. Swain picked for UCF Academy. I'm expecting this to be Proof Opossum in the support role. As I mentioned, he's been putting a lot of reps in on Swain these past couple of days. And immediately two health scalers being chosen kind of locks out a couple of options. I don't expect to see a Volibear. I don't expect to see a Mundo. A Skarner is certainly an interesting choice alongside Swain. Probably will be seeing the Swain go AP. And Hollow Esports pulls out the Kaisa as a response to Zach Kaisa. I think it's pretty clear what kind of composition we're seeing Hollow go for. As I mentioned, Mike Beeston, very big fan, very prolific with more dive-centric comps. I think Kaisa is an excellent complement to the Zac, and I would not be surprised to see something like a Rakan or a Pike possibly come out here from Surgical Goblin. I do think it's a little more difficult playing these kinds of characters into the Swain. Swain's just a very, because he likes to build tanky, is pretty solid in a dive, I'd say. He's definitely a more front to back pick comp type of character. Um, and I think it'll pretty largely depend on what he chooses with his spells for the early game. We do instead see a Lulu come out, just a safer pick, something to keep the Kaisa alive in lane. Definitely easier into the Swain than an engage support. And I do think Hollow Esports has enough engage with their Zac that it shouldn't be a big issue. Though I wouldn't mind seeing a second engage option. UCF picks none. Looks like that is a Karma. So maybe a not a Swain support, despite how much time Proof Opossum has been putting into it. I wonder if this will be ADC, possibly mid lane. I think it's really awkward choosing first pick Swain mid, so this is probably Swain ADC, which is definitely a different story than Swain support. We will be seeing this character build AP. Having the health will be nice, but without the armor, it's kind of just going to get shredded. But it's a very, very aggressive lane from UCF with Swain Karma, double mage bot lane. It's just going to be rough. Mundo Band comes out from UCF Academy. I do think with the Swain, if that does end up going into the ADC role, those health scaler characters are a little bit more deadly. I still think it wouldn't be a great idea for Hollow Esports to choose Zac Mundo. I also don't know if Mundo necessarily fits into their comp, so I don't know how happy I am with that ban. Hollow Esports responds with a Darius ban, which I think is definitely a lot more appropriate. UCF Academy is really in need of AD right now, and Darius would just slot into their comp quite nicely. UCF responds with a Yasuo ban. I think that's something a bit more threatening from Hollow Esports as an option. Between the Zac and the Lulu, there's quite a few knock-up options. I think that Yasuo is an excellent ban, and we do see the Zed ban come out from Hollow Esports. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Yone in the mid lane here for UCF. I think it's just a very comfortable pick. It slots in pretty well with their composition. They do need AD. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Nefiri as well, but I think she just works a little bit worse with the comp. And it looks like we will instead be blinding Kled. This is difficult. This is going to be very, very difficult for UCF Academy, I think. We see an Orianna come out for Hollow Esports. Their comp is pretty AP heavy between the Zac, the Kaisa, and the Orianna. Obviously, Kaisa does deal a great deal of AD damage, but she's more mixed than most ADCs. So this Skarner is going to be kind of hard to kill this game. They're going to need a very AD heavy top laner to really round out their comp. It's kind of hard to find a really divey top laner. I was going to say Aatrox, I think, is their best bet, and Aatrox is what we see locked in. Their third pick, if you're just coming in now, is Karma. I don't know when you send this message. I'm not really paying up the best attention to chat, but did I say Orianna? Karma. UCF's last pick, I think, is a lot more free. The Kled does provide a lot of AD. I don't know how reliable it's going to be. We do see Victor locked in, not a character that I have seen Stay Frosty put a lot of time into. I think it's going to be a little rough with the Swain ADC and the Victor mid, relying almost completely on Kled for AD. Actually, relying completely on the Kled for AD. I think that if Mike Beestum gets in a good position this game, even if the Aatrox gets in a good position this game, it's going to be really hard for UCF Academy to deal with. I think they just have a lot of AP in their composition. On the other side, Hollow Esports, is quite a bit more well-rounded. They have a clear idea with their comp going in with the Zac and the Kaisa, but they also have the ability um, to play front to back if they want to with the Orianna. It's a little bit weird. I feel like um, maybe it's a very awkward combo, a recreation of the Nocturne Shockwave combo where Orianna will put her ball on Zac, Zac will leap in, and then we'll see the command Shockwave come out. Both teams are calling our game, so we will be getting into the in-game draft. I don't know whether or not the lobby has spectator delay. We will find out at the end of all this. Um, yeah. Hollow Esports comp. I, as I said, I think the Orianna is probably going for a combo thing with a Zac. Kaisa will be able to follow up with that quite well, and Lulu is just a solid backup for if all else, if things go wrong with the Kaisa and Zac engage. Aatrox is a little bit more awkward, being a very strong front to back character. I think that he can definitely sneak around and get into a position where he'll be able to dive with his team. It's just a lot less straightforward of a game plan than the rest of his team. He'll really have to be putting a lot of effort into setup. We'll see how Spry Rain makes it work. I am expecting him to have a pretty solid time into Ordelian. I don't know very much about the Aatrox and the Kled matchup. In fact, I will double check that right now. Um, but I think the level of skill is pretty significant between the two players. Apparently, Aatrox actually has a pretty tough time into Kled, so Spryrain is relying quite heavily on that skill gap between the two of them in order to come out on top. Um, I think Oriana versus Victor is going to be a very worthy of watching lane. Um, Stay Frosty, a very, very excellent player. I think probably the scariest player on UCF right now. Um, I do think he definitely can be up to the task. Um, and I also think Oriana has an okay time into the Victor. Looks like we do have that spectator delay. Gives me more time to talk about the team comps, what we will be expecting out of this game. Um, but yeah, Oriana into Victor is slightly Victor favored, but it's even to the point where I think he definitely has a solid chance into Stay Frosty. I haven't talked about the bot lane at all, and that's because I'm definitely less experienced, less knowledgeable with the bot lane. I think Kai'Sa into Swain is probably a somewhat comfortable matchup for Swain. Kai'Sa is a little bit lower of a range of ADC. I think Swain can really take advantage of that. A lot of his um, trades are really short range. A lot of his power is in his Q, but he really wins if he can hit his E consistently. Um, just because the sustain provided from his passive and from Nevermore um, can keep him in the lane a lot longer. Lulu might be able to do a solid job counteracting that, but I think just between the Swain and the Karma, it's going to be a very, very aggressive lane from UCF. Um, Kaisa obviously has quite a bit better scaling. If she can survive the lane, then she's going to have a very happy time into Swain. I think Kaisa, just in general as a character, tends to do quite well into Swain because of her passive. Um, but she just has to make it through that tough, tough early game. And I think Lulu is probably uh, a better pick than an engaged support. I think that the Lulu gives her a lot more ability to survive in lane. Um, and I don't think Lulu has a necessarily difficult execution. The Karma, I feel, is going to have to do more than the Lulu if she wants to win her lane. If both ADCs sit back and farm, we're going to see Hollow Esports come out on top. Um, I also think Zach has a better time ganking mid than any other lane. It's gonna be kind of hard to gank, honestly, with Kled's dash and Karma and Swain's CC combos. I think the Skarner is gonna have an easier time ganking than the Zach. And it looks like we are getting into the game here. I think that the team in red certainly has a lot better invade potential in the early game just because of Nevermore. I don't know if we necessarily want to see the Swain start with Nevermore. It looks like he does go for it. Um, when Swain's in an ADC role, I think it's a lot more preferable to start with his Death's Hand, but we'll just have to see if he makes it work here. It looks like Hollow does not have vision of the bush. They're not really respecting Swain's range. I think he probably could have gone for Nevermore and hit Junard there. Both junglers are clearing bot to top, or no, top to bot. Um, and Fireball does manage to get that Nevermore off onto Junard. Both mid laners do have pretty solid trading patterns. Because of Oriana's passive, she can trade effectively with auto attacks. However, Victor's Q also makes him want to auto attack. It makes for a sort of silly both mages auto attacking. Fireball here is already quite behind. I think largely because of his Nevermore start. You really want to start with Death's Hands on Swain. It just gives you better wave clear, better damage output. Sergeant Goblin stepped up a little bit, got hooked by Nevermore, took a boatload of damage. But luckily, Junard was not too hasty. Fireball is a little bit lower, but its health leads more in favor of Team Hollow here. At this point, he is trading quite well in the mid lane. The Victor has fallen to about half health. Zac is on his Raptors, and the wave is pushing towards the blue side. I think a gank is possible, but I don't think we'll see Mike Beeston take that. Ordelian going in for a trade onto Spryrain. Unfortunately, not really able to deal with Aatrox's sustain. And the Aatrox is presently sitting at full health, and Ordelian has been dismounted. Key here in a bit of trouble against Stay Frosty. Will probably be forced to back right here. I don't think he can reasonably clear this wave with the amount of both health and mana he's sitting at. Both bot lanes are level 3. It looks like Skarner was able to get to the scuttle just a little bit faster than Mike Beestum. And neither jungler really wants to gank bot lane at this moment. Mike Beestum choosing to stay. I think he's walking for the top side scuttle. I wouldn't mind a top gank here. Ordelian is looking pretty vulnerable. He does have a ward down, and the Phaelites give him a lot of vision. I don't think Mike Beeston will really have the time to gank him, especially since he's recalling right now. Hollow Esports do hit level 4 in the bot lane, but Sergeant Goblin is just too low to really go in. Proof Opossum does have his Ignite squeeze out of him. Spryrain actually gets grabbed by Weemeister, is in a bit of a rough spot right now. Ordelian is dismounted, but he's charging up his courage. Ordelian about to die. Spryrain is able to flash and take him out, and Weemeister is now chasing Spryrain. We see a flash come out from the Skarner, and Spryrain, the top laner for Hollow Esports, does go down. However, the wave is definitely in a great spot for this Aatrox. I think that death was definitely a far more favorable thing for him than it was for the player in red. Both top laners do just immediately teleport back to lane, but Spryrain has a far larger wave. He will hit level 6 sooner than his opponent. Ordelian goes for a pretty solid trade. If it were to end right now, he does get dismounted. And both players are about pretty similar health. Both also have quite excellent sustain. So I think they're going to be keeping pace with each other pretty solidly. The first Drake has spawned. It is an Ocean Drake, which is pretty significant. I think Ocean is the best Drake to have early. It's very solid in lane. Its passive is that you regenerate 2% of your missing health every 5 seconds, and it sounds like it's not a lot, but over the course of a game, that really adds up, especially if it's the first Drake. So I think it's important for both teams to contest it. The Swain is ahead in gold. He has a lost chapter, while Kaisa only has 2 longswords. She did opt to go for coal, so I do think we're going to see this first Drake go over to UCF Academy team. Yeah, it looks like Mike Beeston is here, but he's just not really going to be in time. Yeah, as Drake is going to fall. Maybe as consolation, we'll see the Swain go down. It's going to be kind of hard with the Skarner lurking nearby. Sergeant Goblin caught out by the Karma Root, and he does go down to Fireball. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we have some trades going down. Both top laners do have their ults up and available. Ordelian is sitting on his mount. His passive is on cooldown, but it's a little bit hard for Spryrain to trade right now. He does not have a bigger wave. Mike Beeston has come mid, is looking for a gank on Stay Frosty. He does hit his Q. Additionally, the command Shockwave does come out, but it's just not enough. Stay Frosty is able to flash away and survive. Spryrain and Ordelian are just constantly trading in the top lane. Both characters have a very significant amount of sustain. It's a very bloody lane. Junior hit by Nevermore, takes a good chunk of his health down. Additionally, in the top lane, we do see Ordelian lose his mount. He does get pulled in by the chains. What are they called? The Infernal Chains. Spryrain is at a very scary amount of health, but he does have his ultimate up, and Mike Beeston is able to be present for the kill. Unfortunately, Mike Beeston does not manage to hit anything, so he does not get an assist, despite being so readily available. And that's just a bit of a gold loss for Hollow Esports. Now we are waiting for the grubs to come up, really as the next big objective. And they've spawned. I don't quite remember how to see objective timers. So I'm just not going to look at them right now. Team Hollow Esports does have vision of the Skarner. It looks like they do want to contest these grubs. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, both ADCs are fighting. Both ults have come out, but it looks like Junior put a bit too much attention towards Proof Opossum, and Fireball's health total is just a little bit too high. He does manage to get a kill onto Junior, and the Swain is looking very, very deadly. The Malignant Star, admittedly, is a little bit awkward. It's definitely stronger early than it is late. So Team UCF is really putting a lot of their emphasis on the early game in this bot lane. So it's really up to Hollow to just outscale. But they're having a lot of trouble doing that. The Grubs do go fully and completely over to Hollow Esports. More trading in the top lane. Ordelian loses his mount. At this point, Spryrain is almost doubling his CS. As predicted, this top lane is going over to Hollow's favor. Ordelian desperately trying to recall Spryrain is not letting him. This Kled does not have teleport up just yet. It looks like it's pretty soon. Now it's up. So I don't think the Aatrox can get too many plates for his trouble. Presently, Skarner's lurking around bot lane, however the wave is pushed towards Hollow Esports side, so I don't think we'll see anything come from that. Now Waymeister looking to take advantage of his opponent's Raptors, and I don't think he's really going to get contested over those. Hollow Esports does not have vision of the area, and it looks like Mike Beestum is walking into a bit of a sticky situation, is able to hit the blast cone. I think Weemeister honestly probably could have popped the Skarner roll and held him in place. I think that there was a kill there if he had just been a little bit quicker on his feet. Once again, Ordelian TP'd into lane and is immediately put down to 20% health. Spryrain is not messing around. This Aatrox is something to behold. Mike Beestum ganking bot lane. Once again, engaging onto Proof of Possum. Definitely an interesting choice. The Karma can't heal quite as efficiently as the Swain can, but the Swain is the one that really is a major worry here. However, it looks like with the added stats of Mike Beestum, it's just enough health that Junior was able to get both of those kills. And now all of a sudden, Hollow Esports' ADC is looking to be the more fearsome of the two. He did opt to go with a Cull start, which is just preparing him for the late game even further. Gives him just a little bit of an extra edge over the Swain once he completes the Cull quest. And the second Drake of the game, the Mountain Drake, will be going over to Hollow Esports, most likely. Honestly, I feel like Proof of Possum could have gone down there, but it looks like Hollow just doesn't want to take the fight. At this point, it's definitely just too late to take the fight. Alright, here we go. Objective timers. Wonderful. At this point in the game, there is a very slight gold lead in favor of Hollow Esports. A lot of it is located in the top lane. Hollow Esports is actually slightly behind in both the jungle and the mid lane. And their bot lane is super even. So Aatrox is really their only big winner right now. And that definitely shows itself with the 3 grubs they've taken. It looks like Sergeant Goblin gets caught out by the Nevermore, just not enough vision in the bot lane. Or maybe just not enough spatial awareness. Junior is able to sit pretty comfortable, full health. However, the Weemeister on the Skarner is coming in, and it looks like a tower dive here for Team UCF. Junior able to flash the Nevermore, but not able to dodge the Impale. Luckily, the Wild Growth is able to keep him up, and now we see a proper tower dive going on. And Proof of Possum does go down. It is a 2-for-1, so it's still quite favorable for the team in red, but just a little unfortunate. I think it was possible if Fireball took just one more tower shot that every member of his team could have lived, but it's definitely a pretty difficult thing to execute. Stay Frosty gets engaged upon perfectly by Mike Beestum. It looks like he's in quite an amount of trouble. He's forced to use Flash, but he does ultimately get away. Spryrain just went for in a proxy. Pretty unusual to see on Aatrox. I don't think that character has necessarily the best wave clear. Um, Definitely not a character I would encourage proxying on. And with that proxy, he elected to do nothing. It really didn't. It caused theoretical pressure, but the team in red really didn't respect that theoretical pressure, and ultimately the proxy was uh, kind of worthless. The best it got was deep vision, but I don't think the ward actually has vision on the Krugs. Skarner looking for yet another invade into Mike Beeston's jungle, finds nothing, just wastes his own time. And another tower dive, this time onto Key. Stay Frosty gets stunned by the command Shockwave, but it's just not enough, and Weemeister is able to make it out this time. Both members of UCF Academy survive. In the top lane, we see the first turret getting quite low on the side of UCF. I would not be surprised if it was the first to fall. However, Hollow's bot turret is also looking pretty frail. At this point, the Swain and the Kai'Sa are surprisingly close in gold. I think once that coal pops, it's going to be quite a bit more in favor of the Kai'Sa, but it's really tough to say. I think the star is going to go down right here, right now. Mike Beeston now starting the Rift Herald. I do think it should go over to the side of Hollow Esports just because of how strong that Aatrox is right now. An engagement happening in the bot lane. Junard this time does target the Swain, and would you believe it, the Swain goes down. And Proof Opossum is the one collecting kill credit for the Kai'Sa this time around. Unfortunately, he was not able to cash out that coal before he went down. So we will be waiting just a little bit longer with that taking up in inventories. Mike Beeston coming in, seeing Skarner lurking around his jungle. I don't think he really has teammates available. I don't think there's anything he can do about the Skarner. Just putting a bit of pressure as Dragon is now spawning. And we do see a trade transpire. Definitely a bit more favorable for Weemeister than for Mike Beeston. Zach, of course, can heal up, but starting a fight off at half health is just not the way you want to do it. Fireball does have the arm guard available to him, which is why he's taking this very aggressive angle. And we see the Impale come out, hits 2, the Swain ult comes out, and 3 members of Hollow fall. I don't think we're going to see these guys come out on top for this dragon fight. Spryrain doing the best he can, but it's just not enough. And in the chaos, the Kled manages to pick off Key. And that was a very, very dominant fight for UCF Academy. Earlier, Hollow had about 1,000 gold lead. It wasn't too big, but you know it was a lead. And now we are looking at a pretty significant flip, almost a 5,000 gold lead in favor of UCF Academy. I think probably after they take this tower, it will be 1,000 gold lead. And you have to look at this and ask yourself, what can Hollow do about this? How are they supposed to come out on top? And I think that the answer is no more team fights. I don't think it's possible to win a 5v5 or really even a 4v4. Swain excels at team fights. Victor excels at team fights. Karma excels at team fights. Even the Skarner is quite solid in that kind of scenario. Junard getting the 600 gold shutdown on the Swain, or 500 gold shutdown on the Swain, might be akin to what needs to happen in order for Hollow to really have a stake in this game. Stay Frosty does expend his flash, but he runs down Key. Orianna having a very rough time here. And Spryrain is now getting 3v1'd in the top lane. I do not think we're going to see the Aatrox come out on top. He actually is doing a really good job of surviving here. I don't know about the flash forward by Mike Beeston. Clearly, they want to turn this into something favorable. Kled is probably the one character on Team UCF that can't team fight as strongly. So I get what is, I get what the goal is here. I get what they're going for, but I just don't think it's going to work out. It's just a crazy overextension. They're looking for a miracle, and it's just not going to happen right here in the top lane. We are going to see Mike Beeston fall. I don't think Spryrain should still be fighting this. At this point, Swain does have his Rallies. He's had it for a good bit. We're at 3 items on this ADC versus 1 item on the Aatrox. So it's definitely a very awkward, very tough thing to fight. I think the Aatrox just needs to disengage. In the mid lane, Weemeister comes in, picks up Lulu, makes her disappear. I think Junard is about to share that fate. Very excellent Blast Cone, honestly. Proof Apostle is the one that ends up getting that kill. But I don't know necessarily how much it matters. I think Skarner, now that he's got Heartsteel, is about as strong as he needs to be to make a difference, to have a presence. Mike Beeston opts to engage onto Weemeister. The Aatrox is walking down, but I think Skarner just has enough escapability that it's not going to be an issue. Baron is up. The jungler for Team UCF is present, is available. Stay Frosty is currently shoving the bot lane. He does not have his TP available, and Key on the Orianna does have his TP available. So we're going to see Team Hollow get bot lane prio, but I don't know really how much they can do with it. I don't think that they can really fight this Baron. I think what needs to happen is Key should just push for the bot lane tier 1. It's a little weird seeing this Rift Herald come out mid, honestly. I think it probably just ran out of time. There wasn't a great opportunity to push with it. But it's very disappointing seeing Key not looking for this tier 1. I do think it's probably because Weemeister isn't showing on the map, but it's just what needs to happen in order for Hollow to have a stake, and it's just not happening. By the way they're positioning, it kind of looks like Hollow does want to contest this Baron. I don't know if they believe they have a chance in the team fight. I really don't think they do. Spryrain, he's strong, but he's just not strong enough. He traded somewhat efficiently onto the Skarner, didn't deal any damage to him. We're about to see another tower dive come out, or possibly just the tower getting destroyed in top lane. Weemeister setting up for this Victor to just break the tower. I do think Spryrain has enough know-how to not die here, but his turret's just going down and you can't do anything about it. In the bot lane, the opportunity to take the tier 1 has really been lost. We do see Ordelian matched up against Key, and unfortunately Key is just so weak that this Kled really can contest him at this moment. The next Drake, Infernal Drake, it is an Infernal Soul, has spawned. I'm really surprised we haven't seen a Baron get taken yet. I really feel like Team UCF has had the opportunity to go for it. But I guess they're just concerned that's the one way they can lose the team fight, is if they go for Baron, take a bunch of damage, and then get engaged upon. However, Drake does not do nearly as much damage as Baron. However, while the Drake is getting taken, we do see Spryrain shoving at the top lane tier 2, which is sort of the inverse of the thing I was mentioning earlier, where we need to see that bot lane tier 1 get pushed in. Spryrain is doing exactly what he needs to do right here. It's not a lot, but it's like what Hollow Esports can do to get back in this game right now. Also disengaging at an appropriate time. It looks like he's taking a pretty greedy recall. He's taking trades onto Ardelian. He doesn't realize that Frosty is walking up. I don't know if this Aatrox is going to make it out of this fight alive. He does still have his ult, however, Proof of Possum is walking up. I think even if the Karma wasn't on her way, this would be a very difficult fight for Spryrain. He does also decide to extend his flash. Really sort of reactive flash there was not a great play. Key flashes away from Fireball. That one's a little bit better. It's pretty difficult for Swain to chase, especially he doesn't even have boots right now. He's really putting a lot of reliance onto that Rallies. And it looks like UCF Academy is finally looking for that Baron. About 25 minutes in, they don't realize that the game updated the start of the year to include Baron at 20 minutes. They're still playing the same old way. I believe UNF, or no, jeez, Follow does not have vision of this Baron. They don't know that it's happening, but they can guess that it's happening. And this Nash will be going down on to the side of UCF Academy. Now, all of the lanes are pushed in Hollow's favor. I do think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for UCF to end with his Baron. I don't know if they're necessarily a good enough team to end with it right now. If a bunch of Hollow's players get caught out, then maybe, but Team Hollow is just playing in a way that I don't think... I think they're aware that getting caught out needs to not happen, and I don't think they're going to get caught out. Spryrain, hiding in a bush, looks like he maybe wants to trade onto Stay Frosty. I don't know if that's the best idea for him, but it's something he can try for. Weemeister also lurking in the area. I don't think this Aatrox is in any trouble. Skarner's just looking for a Heartsteel proc. The first turret to fall to this Baron buff. Tier 2 in bot lane. And it looks like Team UCF does want to look for this mid lane tier 3. We have a mid-bot split. It looks like Kled's also going top. With the resources spread so wide, I don't know if UCF is really going to get anything more with this Baron buff. I think that putting players all around the map is really not the way you want to do it. The Kled is not getting contested right now. I would love to see someone walk up. It looks like he is the one to take the mantle. I really don't know if he can actually contest this Kled. I don't know if he has the wave clear for these incredibly healthy minions. It looks like he is. Doing just fine, actually. However, Weemeister now coming in actually misses for maybe the first time this game. Doesn't manage to connect his charge on Skarner. Spryrain trades ults with Stay Frosty in the bot lane. Actually manages to collect the shutdown for this unkillable Victor. And suddenly Hollow is looking just a little bit better. Top lane tier 2 does go down. In the meantime, we did see 2 members of Hollow go towards that Victor, so they really sacrificed that tier 2 for the Victor, but it was definitely a favorable trade for them. 1,000 gold is more than 700 gold, which is about how much the top lane tier 2 gives. And also that 700 gold was split between quite a few members of UCF, so that's what's up. It's less effective. Hollow's jungle is completely littered with wards. Mike Beeston has his position known precisely. His opponent is completely aware of where the Zac is. The next Drake is spawned. It's what's being contested, what's being looked at right now. Um, and presently, both Victor and Swain do have Zhonya's available to them. It's going to be a pretty difficult fight, honestly, for Team Hollow. It is a 5v5, as mentioned. UCF is quite a bit more favorable in these team fights. Spryrain looking for an angle gets caught out by the Void Scuttler. I don't think that Hollow can really get anything here. It is Soul, so we will be seeing Mike Beestum sort of throw his life away in an attempt to get to this Drake. I don't think the rest of his team needed to follow, if I'm being honest. This is an honest-to-goodness 5 versus 5 fight. Both Zhonya's popped by Victor and Swain. Junard barely manages to get away. I really feel like the Kled could have stayed on top of him there. No, he does not actually manage to get away. He does go down. And it does look like this is going to be GG. The first game of these scrims over in favor of UCF Academy. I guess it's not completely over, but it's what should come to pass. They only have 2 members mid. They're really pushing all the towers at once, which is really not how you end a game. Really, you want to have all of your teammates in the same lane. You just clear towers faster. It's way it's just faster to end the game. Because of this somewhat amateur decision making, this game isn't like guaranteed over, but I think that UCF is far enough ahead that they're just gonna come out on top anyways. Actually, amazing command shockwave from Key. Unfortunately, just not really anyone to follow up on it. I think a really big issue here is that there's not a lot of great follow-up for the Orianna. I don't think that Kaisa and even Aatrox have enough AoE to really follow up on a really good shockwave. Aatrox has it, but it's incredibly precise. I think it's hard to go for. And Kaisa has a bunch of single target damage. Her missiles obviously really spread around, but I think she also just doesn't have the best follow-up to Shockwave if it's a big one like that. First game does go over to UCF. Despite having a bit of an unexpected roster, they're still definitely able to put out an excellent game. And we will be now getting ready for the Game 2 draft. Oh, actually, it looks like the draft started while we were ending the last game. We do see UCF ban out Viego, Nami, Talia, and Hollow bans out Galio, Cassidon, Braum. Same stuff as last time around. UCF first picks the Pantheon. If I'm not mistaken, Mordelian does play a bit of Pantheon. That could be top lane. I think seeing it as a first pick makes me want to think it's jungle. I think first picking your top laner, a little bit unorthodox for sure. And it looks like, regardless, Hollow is going to respond with a Wukong pick. Most likely in the jungle. I have seen Mike Beeston play Wukong a little bit. I do think that Mike Beeston's comfort zone is carry characters, but he often seems to end up on bruisers when it comes to these sort of scrimmage matches. And we also see a Leona locked in for Hollow Esports. Also something unorthodox, I feel like you don't usually see a support locked in before an ADC, but they just have a high level of confidence that this Leona is going to work out for them. Also, Proof Opossum does like the Leona. An Aesol coming out here on the side of UCF I have to say that's mid lane. I can't imagine Aesol working especially well in either top lane or in the ADC role, but blinding Aesol is just a very, very rough thing to do. He's a character that's very susceptible to counter picks. Um, it could just be that Stay Frosty saw Key's performance last game and said, "Yo, you can counterpick me, but you're just not going to be able to deal with me. I'm so much better than you that I can beat you in a counterpick matchup as a soul." Um, and we also see the Rek'Sai locked in by UCF, so that maybe is a Pantheon top. I suppose it could be support, but I haven't seen it prove a possum roll up with the Pantheon support. Um, I was also expecting him on the Swain last game, so shows what I know. And we see Misfortune locked in for Hollow Esports. Misfortune Leona is honestly a pretty scary composition. Both of them just have really excellent stats. Misfortune does a boatload of damage. Leona takes a boatload of damage very well. Um, Additionally, Leona has oodles of CC in her kit, a lot of lockdown available to her, and the Misfortune ult just pairs super, super excellently with that. We do see Hollow Esports ban Darius in response. We get a Rumble ban from UCF. Hollow is sitting on a lot of AD characters right now, so I understand the Rumble ban. I think it's actually uh, a pretty good pick from UCF. I think that Hollow probably is going to focus their AP in the mid lane. And there's not a lot of AP characters that are especially good into ASOL, so it's a sort of getting set up, a trap getting set up here by UCF. And it looks like Hollow is really thinking over this decision, what they're going to be picking next here. It's definitely a lot of a scarier draft than the last one. And we do see Syndra come out, which Aurelion Sol is a character that goes excellently into Syndra. I think that at some point, if he survives the early game, he just outranges her. Um, and they obviously have pretty different play styles. Asol kind of a pick comp, really a front to back type of character, and Syndra is definitely a pick type of character. Um, I think Syndra is a bit easier to execute than Asol. Um, However, statistically, Asol comes out on top in this matchup. I worry for the mid lane of Hollow Esports. We see UCF round out their comp with Orange Severe. This is a pretty convincing pick comp that works well as a front to back as well. And we do see this Pantheon come out in the support lane, which is something I mused over. Hollow Esports finishes off with a Gangplank. Spryrain plays a ton of Gangplank. This is the character he has sunk the most time into, so I have high, high hopes for him this game. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to do well. I think Aatrox is a carry character, but Gangplank is a character that can just scale out of control, and I think that he can really win the game through this Gangplank pick. We'll have to see how it goes. Our game has been called. Now, thinking about this draft, both teams are playing, um, in terms of team fights, they're both playing front to back comps, but they're also both playing comps that are really solid at picking each other out. They're kind of both sitting with the same goals. Um, and I think Hollow Esports has a little bit more effective of picking you out type of comp, but UCF Academy has a more effective front to back comp. It could be that the Cyclone from Wukong and the Ult from Misfortune are enough to really carry their team through the team fight. Both of those are really, really strong ults. Um, but I really think Hollow has a less effective team fighting comp. I guess we'll just have to see how valuable this Gangplank ends up being. I think he's the variable I'm least prepared for here. Really, one well-placed Gangplank barrel can blow up a whole team, or at the very least a severe. Um, I think Leona is a really good response to the Pantheon. Leona is the character with the highest base armor in the game. And Pantheon is a character that likes dealing a lot of AD damage. So Leona is honestly a great response into Severe Pantheon. We'll see if she manages to land her hooks. I think it's going to be kind of difficult dealing with Severe. I think Severe is a great sort of counter pick to Leona, just because she does have that spell shield available to her in her kit for 0 mana, no less. That allows her to just sort of eat one of the many CCs Leona has available to her. And Leona really relies on hitting that first instance of lockdown to hit the rest of her lockdown. As long as she hits one, she'll hit more. Um, so stopping her from hitting that one is quite effective. UCF Academy does have quite a lot of CC available to them as well, between the Acel ult, Ornn ult, Rek'Sai ult, and the Pantheon Leap. Um, they have a lot of lockdown, and I think that Gangplank is going to be the character that sort of benefits from that to a degree. I think that we're going to see this Gangplank stepping a little bit more forward than maybe he should, just because of the oranges he's got available to him. I guess we'll see how he plays, but I'm expecting this Gangplank to win lane, and I'm expecting him to play giddily. Although it does have a lot of tankiness on their team between the Leona, the Wukong, and to some extent the Gangplank. Um, Despite like Ornn, Pantheon, Rek'Sai, I still feel like Leona Wukong is just a more solid front line. And if Severe gets in a good position, then she's a real monster. But Misfortune just has such an ease of execution that I think she's going to be something to worry about here. But I guess we'll see when we get into the game. Or into Gangplank. As I mentioned, I'm expecting the Gangplank to win. But I really don't know how the matchup traditionally goes. So I'm going to double check that. Ornn into Gangplank is a Ornn favored matchup. Really? So it looks like Gangplank wins lane, but Ornn tends to win the game. We'll see how that translates. Both teams really have quite excellent scaling. Acel is just the scaling champ. Severe scales quite well. Ornn scales quite well. Rek'Sai has famously abysmal scaling, but I think the rest of her team really covers for her. If the game goes long, I do think we could expect UCF to win. So we might see them really draw the game out, not go for that first Drake for a little bit. It'd really take like 30 minutes to end, but we'll have to see. We are now getting into the game. Momentarily, I'm sure. Hollow Esports starting top side. I do think they have a slightly more favorable invade with the Leona hook. Though I don't think Leona starts hook. I just think Leona is a more solid character than Pantheon, maybe, in the early game. It looks like they will not opt to invade. I do think invades are a bit rare this season. Interestingly, Surgical Goblin does not want to fight this. Leads to Junard taking a really large amount of damage. And he's forced it back here. I don't think he's going to be able to get that back off, and he takes even more damage. Kind of a disaster in the bot lane for Hollow Esports. Really not what you want to see if you're a big Junard head. Pantheon did start Spear with his Q, so he's got a little bit less kill threat without his leap, but this is just super, super disastrous for this Misfortune. Now the wave is pushing towards him. He just has to wait it out, but I was really expecting the Misfortune Leona to be stronger than the Pantheon Severe. And it looks like it was not the case. Both junglers are pathing top to bot this game. Both bot lanes really do have a lot of setup for their junglers. Definitely more so Team Hollow Esports. This Misfortune is currently sitting at 3 CS, no health. Proof of Possum flashes onto her under tower. Looks like we will see this Pantheon die to Leona, but this bot lane is just disastrous for Hollow Esports. On the flip side, Fireball and Proof of Possum are playing this excellently. Misfortune has had her barrier forced. She sit at level 1, Fireball's at level 3. Misfortune has 3 CS in 2.5 minutes. It is rough. It is super, super rough. Nothing really eventful is going on in any of the other lanes. I think both top laners kind of just want to sit back and scale. I don't know if they're really looking to kill each other. I think Ordelian is probably a little bit more aggressive in the early game. Both top laners did elect to go for teleport. I really would have expected Spiraling to bring Ignite, but I guess into the Ornn, you're really just not expecting to get a kill. Proof of Possum has a pretty solid angle here. Sergeant Goblin just went in without seeing the Pantheon. It wasn't a very great engage. Junard was not able to follow up on it. The Misfortune has managed to catch up. God bless. Catch up XP. But Fireball is still a good bit ahead in gold. Pantheon as well is a character that can turn early gold into a lot of early game power. I think he's a character that can really get out of control. So gold going to him isn't even really the worst thing in the world. Sergeant Goblin gets a good engage onto Fireball. But Junard is out of mana, really just having a tough time following up on it. That being said, Fireball is put quite low, but Junard is still out of mana. It might be kind of tough for the bot lane of Team Hollow to really get a kill here. Yeah, and we do see Junard go down to Proof of Possum. There just weren't enough stats available. And it looks like Surgical Goblin was the one really calling to go in there. I don't think it was the worst idea, but there just wasn't enough available from Junard, especially with Barrier only just recently coming off of cooldown. I don't think it was up for that fight. Spryrain gets ganked. Weemeister puts him in the ground. Very, very nearly dies to tower. But he does set up the wave very nicely for Ardelian. What an angelic jungler. And now this Ornn is sitting very pretty. Honestly, pretty insignificant gold lead. I would have expected a lot more from that, but you know, it's working out for him. Overall, I think a lot of the gold lead is located in bot lane. The Severe is just so far ahead of this Misfortune that I honestly don't think this first Drake can be properly contested by Team Hollow. Now, Proof of Possum does take a bit of damage, but it looks like Hollow is well aware of their situation, and they do just give this first Ocean Drake. Again, Ocean Drake as the first Drake. Really nice to have in lane, just some cute little sustain. Spryrain looking for a small trade onto Ardelian. Really shouldn't be more than that. It looks like it might be a little bit more than that. This Ornn has been put quite below half health. It looks like he's desperately trying to freeze the wave, but I think the wave is just a little bit too big. He's not got a lot of health. I don't think he'll be able to hold a freeze. Fireball, I imagine, is quite a bit closer to ult than Junard, yeah. Very nearly at the... what's it called? On the hunt. And Proof of Possum also in a pretty solid engaged position. I really think he could just walk up. He does have flash available to him. I think they're just waiting for 6 to hit in order for On the Hunt to be available and for this Misfortune to go down. Weemeister once again top lane. Spryrain is definitely going down again. He has nothing available to him. Ardelian miraculously misses his Call of the Forge God, and as a result, we will be seeing Spryrain collect a kill onto Weemeister. Really just a bit disastrous from Ardelian here. He did ping his ping 50 ms. I suppose to some that might be disastrous, but honestly, that was a pretty significant mistake there that got both him and his jungler killed. In the bot lane, Fireball has hit 6, but Junard is still alive. I really don't expect that to be the case much longer. He's just eating the extra... what are they called? Like a giant ninja star? It's not a chakram. It's probably an ability that describes what it is. Crossblade, I see. Mike Beeston is coming in. He does not have Cyclone available to him. However, the damage is enough to take down the Severe. Unfortunately, the shutdown goes over to Sergeant Goblin. I think the Ignite is probably what did it. And the bot lane is really still in a very, very rough spot. I think if Junard were able to pick that kill up, it would have been a little bit okay. Proof of Possum goes for a very, very over-aggressive flash. Does not manage to jump onto Junard before Goblin is able to stun him. And Pantheon really just donates his life over to Mike Beeston on the Wukong. Weemeister, now coming mid, knocks up Key. Stay Frosty does just barely manage to hit the Starfall, and we do see Key go down. And now we are getting to a point where this ASOL is going to become a bit of a problem. It's pretty, honestly, convenient for Team Hollow that this ASOL hasn't been roaming. I think there's probably been some opportunity to just drive by bot lane and disappear the ADC. Mike Beeston now putting a bit more attention towards bot lane than he has been. Fireball gets hit by everything. Cyclone, the misfortunal, what's it called? Bullet time, I believe? Yeah. Cyclone, bullet time, solar flare. And it's enough for the Severe to go down. And Proof of Possum follows shortly after, like an obedient dog. The next Drake is a Hextech Drake coming up in about 30 seconds. Weemeister looks like he wants something. I don't know if he realizes how healthy Sergeant Goblin is. I really feel like it's a rough situation for the bot laners of Team Hollow here. I really honestly would have liked to see that kill go over to Acel. But Weemeister is looking to be the carry jungler of this game. Ardelian very barely survives, does hit the call of the Forge God this time. And it looks like Spryrain will not be chasing him down. And the next Drake has spawned. Weemeister making a beeline for it. This Rek'Sai is sitting on both Stridebreaker and Steel Caps. He's in a very, very strong position right now. Sergeant Goblin just taking damage before the Drake fight, trying to keep control of his pink ward. Actually gets a pretty solid engage onto Fireball, and Mike Beeston is able to follow up on it, pushes him straight into key. We see the Unleashed Power take out Stay Frosty, and this is a really, really great fight for Team Hollow. It looks like the second Drake will be going over to Hollow Esports. Weemeister is not looking for anything sneaky here. Just a clean fight, which occurred, is over with. Ardelian now taking quite a bit of damage from Spryrain. These barrels are really starting to hurt. For whatever reason, Ornn started with Zeke's Convergence, which is just a really awful starting item, frankly, into Gangplank. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he thought the GP would just be behind forever, but it just doesn't provide nearly enough armor. And the Gangplank already has Last Whisper, so it does practically nothing. And these barrels are definitely going to start hurting. They've already started hurting. Really questionable first buy from Ardelian. Presently, Weemeister invading Mike Beeston's jungle. Looks like that's going to be something consistent over the games. Mike Beeston does manage to keep his red buff for himself. Let's see if he pays for it. And he is forced to use Cyclone in order to escape this Rek'Sai. Meanwhile, Key has managed to catch out Stay Frosty. Spryrain has come as well for this Rek'Sai, and it's a whole shindig in the top lane. There's also quite a bit of trading coming down in the bot lane. You see Bullet Time kind of come out. Junard very nearly kills Proof of Possum, but goes down ultimately to Fireball. I think we're going to see Sergeant Goblin following very shortly after. Proof of Possum able to hit the stun, and the Leona goes down a double kill for the Severe. Key pulls out Unleashed Power onto the Acel, just is not enough to kill him, and we see Acel walking down. Just all around the map, we see UCF Academy in a more positive position. In terms of gold, Fireball definitely has way more gold than Junard. Mike Beeston looking for a double kill in the bot lane. I think he's going to get it. Honestly, these bot laners just keep force feeding this Wukong. I think it's really keeping Hollow Esports in the game. I don't think this Wukong should be nearly as strong as he is right now. But Mike Beeston has just been in the right place at the right time, and really it's mostly been Fireball and Proof of Possum being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know, they're just overstaying, they're so greedy, and they're really paying for it. Mid lane is looking quite even, slightly favored for Stay Frosty, which is an even mid lane is a winning mid lane for Asol. Ardelian takes a great deal of damage, will not be dying. Junard once again caught out by Weemeister. Um, Sergeant Goblin doing everything he can to keep his ADC alive, but it's just not enough. Proof of Possum is able to finish him off, and Stay Frosty clears out the Leona. Spryrain kills Ordillion under tower. That Zeke's convergence is really biting this guy in the ass. I don't know. I really don't know why he went for that. I think at least it keeps the game interesting. You know, this gangplank is definitely going to be scaling into the late game. Assuming this game goes late, these objectives are flying by. I feel like Rift Herald was cleared just as fast as it was spawned. Well, just as soon as it was spawned, we'll say. And interestingly as well, we do not see the bot lane switch mid yet. There's a bit of pressure on this Syndra to perform well if she's in the mid lane at this point. I think generally you want to put the teammate that's going to carry in the mid lane, unless it's the top laner that's carrying. So holding key there is sort of a statement. And we do see Asol now coming bot. Usually that evokes a response of the same action from the opposing team, and we do see Key now roaming bot. Drake, 20 seconds away, will be a Mountain Soul. Hollow Esports is just a little bit more readily set up. They have a lot of vision around. Sergeant Goblin is really caught out right now. He's greeting way too hard for that pink ward. However, Mike Beeston was able to engage on his foolishness, but unfortunately is just not able to kill anything. Junard pulls out the bullet time, very nearly chunks down Pruga Possum, but the Pantheon is just barely able to get away. And that fight just is not in favor of Hollow Esports. Fireball very nearly going down to Junard. Stay Frosty is near enough to help, but just barely doesn't kill Junard. Ordelian once again trying to trade into Spryrain, and it's just not working out. This GP is so far ahead. He's got a 5-level lead on this Pantheon, so I don't imagine the Pantheon will be able to do anything. Yeah, loses half his health to a single barrel. Spyrain had flash up and available for him. Probably could have killed that Ornn. I just don't think the Ornn's worth it at this point. How much gold is he sitting on? A little over 1,000. He could back and get boots right now, but I think that he just wants to keep applying pressure. It could be that... I don't really know what Hollow Esports is looking for here. They have their whole team centered around the top side of the map, but there's just not an objective up and available. Key getting run at by Stay Frosty. We do see this Asol elect to go for Mercurial Treads. Which is interesting. I see a lot of Asols build full damage, but I think the tier 3 boots, it's just so strong to go for tanky boots right now. Really, we're just not going to be seeing this Asol take very much damage from the Syndra. I think it's honestly a very effective choice into her, especially because of the unstoppable power being kind of difficult to deal with. We do see Proof of Possum lurking around the top side. His ultimate is not up and available, but I think the ultimate goal here is to take down Spryrain. He's really like the bastion of hope for Hollow Esports right now. This Wukong is also performing quite well, but he's a good bit harder to take down. It looks like Hollow Esports is aware of the sort of pressure centered around top lane. We do have Sergeant Goblin going up, getting a bit of vision. Just providing assistance for this gangplank. Realistically, though, really no fight should be happening right now. There's not really a lot of objectives up. Baron is now spawning, but usually we don't see Baron taken this early. Mike Beeston is looking for a little something in the mid lane, and Sergeant Goblin does get an engagement onto Proof Opossum. Unfortunately, it's just not the best character to engage onto. Weemeister takes out, or I guess Fireball takes out Junior. Weemeister assists with that. Sergeant Goblin goes down. However, it is not for free. Proof Opossum also falls. Mike Beeston very nearly manages to catch Proof, or catch Fireball with Key's help, but it's just not enough. Spryrain has now entered the fight. He actually gets a small amount of damage onto Ordelian. It's not insignificant. And Spryrain is now here. It looks like we will be seeing this Ornn go down. I think that the Aesol is thinking about helping, but realistically, this gangplank is an issue. And it just barely, Shelly does not manage to hit the tower. That would have been a really solid charge for Mike Beeston if that tier 1 had gone down. Spryrain now facing 3 members of the UCF Academy in the bot lane right now. And I actually think he's strong enough to deal with them. Unfortunately for him, the severe... What were they called? Cross something or other? I'm gonna look at that ability. Let's see what it's called. The Ricochet. The Ricochet bounced onto him, revealing his position. However, despite the 3v1, he was able to trade 1-for-1 with Stay Frosty. Baron is up. We have 4 members of Hollow Esports lurking around the top side of the map. They're not going to be going for Baron, but they're going to be stopping their opponents from going for Baron. The next Drake is spawning in 50 seconds, so they can't really lurk around for too long. Key's in the top lane right now. He does have teleport. Ordelian also has teleport. And that's why they're both there. Ordelian's teleport is a little bit more valuable than Key's teleport just because of the top laner passive. Weemeister getting a little bit caught out on an invade. Rek'Sai does have very excellent escapability, and his Severe is here to help, but Fireball seems to have forgotten how squishy the character he's playing is. Mike Beeston gets an excellent engage. He's forced to use Cyclone, but in the end, Proof Opossum does go down. And it looks like this Drake will be going over to Hollow Esports. We also have Spryrain present, and it looks like when Spryrain is present for a fight, UCF Academy does not want the smoke. This guy is really showing how excellent he is on the character. He has Vision of Weemeister. Hollow Esports is available, but he's coming in. Stay Frosty just takes a load of damage from Spryrain, not expecting that gangplank at all. The Aesol is just instantly deleted. Weemeister also does end up going down, and Mountain Drake goes over into the hands of Hollow Esports. It looks like they're hoping to take a Baron very quickly after that Drake. And I don't think they're really going to get contested. The only ult they have available is the Unleashed Power from the Syndra, which I would argue is a little bit less powerful than Ordelian's Call of the Forge God, but I don't think that for the Forge God is going to be enough to win this fight on its own. It does manage to hit it this time. The Baron does go into the hands of Hollow Esports. Sergeant Goblin will be going down. Fireball is certainly a force to be reckoned with, but he's able to knock him away, and I think that'll be that. Especially since the tier 1 is still present in the top lane. Ordelian is really overextending here. I think Mike Beeston maybe wants him, but I don't think he's gonna be able to get him. Now, a little bit messy on the end of that Baron there. Spryrain losing Baron buff is pretty sad. Sergeant Goblin losing Baron buff is pretty sad. Obviously, I think those are the 2 characters that benefit from it the most. I guess Sergeant Goblin wants to be walking around in between lanes, but I don't know. I like the thought of the frontliner having that buff available to them. Weemeister, presently looking for Mike Beeston. There's a lot of players around the top lane. It's a 4v4, and the Aesol is teleporting in. Spryrain takes out Weemeister. Ordelian short to follow, and then Yet another kill for Spry Rain. We see the Severe go down. Um, and this Gangplank is proving to be a real issue. Additionally, Mike Beeston on this Wukong is sort of a silent killer. He's just doing an excellent job of frontlining. He doesn't deal... He deals damage. It's not as flashy and explicit as the Gangplank, but this Wukong is just present where he needs to be when he needs to be. And he does a really good job of dealing his damage, dealing his lockdown, and then getting out of the fight alive. It's definitely something worth watching. Now, Hollow doesn't seem to have an aim with this Baron buff right now. They do have all of their lanes pushed out, but none of their members are present with those pushed waves. So none of the towers are really taking that much damage. Um, Obviously, they do still have the Baron buff available to them, but really they have one more wave and then it's over. And I don't think this mid wave is going to be able to take that tier 1, or no, that tier 2 rather. Stay Frosty is the one tasked with facing off against Spry Rain. I think the range of Acel is really why we get to see that. Unfortunately for him, he does still eat the barrel, eat the Q, and is immediately forced to go back to spawn. He just used his fly to get out, so it's going to take him a second to return to the wave. Weemeister looking around mid lane. It looks like Sergeant Goblin might be a little bit far up, but his team is here to back him up. He's not going to be getting engaged upon right now. Spry Rain chunking down the top tier 2. Under tower is of course where Acel is most powerful. He can really collect that wave quite easily. Mike Beeston now getting caught out, flashes into the wall. A little bit ungraceful, and I do think he will ultimately be going down to Weemeister. He as well is caught out by Ardelian. Honestly, really terrible thing to happen for Hollow Esports 30 seconds before Drake comes in. Spry Rain as well is in just an awful position, too far forward, and the Misfortune just isn't able to do enough damage to sustain her fight from the back. And the immediate response to this ace is to shove mid. It looks like UCF Academy will be taking this tier 2, and it'd honestly be pretty nice to see them take a tier 3. I think they could pop an inhib as well. Mike Beeson is going to be the only one available for his team here. I definitely don't think they can end, but they can get a lot for this ace here. And they do end up taking the inhib. Weemeister takes the Drake in this game. Was previously in pretty strong favor of Hollow Esports, but it is definitely shifted to a more even game. Presently, UCF is its sole point. It just allows them to apply a lot more pressure just by the fact of a dragon being on the map. And the next Baron is spawning quite shortly. Might be some first one to the Void Sculler, gets his team a good amount of vision. Just a bit of map control over the area preemptively. Weemeister responds by taking the top wave. Now, Spry Rain is shoving bot. He does have TP available to him, but not being there immediately for the fight, it's a little bit awkward, especially as Gangplank, who likes to set up a little bit. However, the pressure he's applying for his team is pretty immense. He's really just demanding someone respond to him. However, it looks like Hollow Esports isn't exactly on the same page. They do get engaged upon, and it chunked out quite heavily. Key goes down. Sergeant Goblin looks like he's soon to follow. Mike Beeston Jr. It's just completely disastrous for Hollow Esports. They really needed to play quite slow, but they just weren't in a great position to do so. They just got wiped from a great engage by Weemeister and a great follow-up by Stay Frosty. And we're at the point where Severe is just able to tear through people, and that's exactly what happened. Second game does go in favor of UCF Academy. Overall, I think that Hollow Esports held their own that game quite a bit better than the first game. Honestly, a really great gameplay by both Mike Beeston and by Spryrain there. They really did what was needed of them, but it's just a shame it wasn't enough. Really, just honestly, all-star gameplay by Spryrain. Do not let this guy in Gangplank. He will perform. This time, we will be getting to see the whole draft. Hollow Esports has it readied up. UCF is still taking their time. Oh, it looks like we are now getting into the draft. UCF once again on the blue side. Kind of strange. I could have sworn they were blue side last time around. They first picked Pantheon, but I could be wrong, I suppose. I mean, I can check that. Let's check that. Yeah, UCF was first picking last time around. It's interesting to see it happen twice in a row. It's not something I normally see. And it looks like we will be just locking in the same first three bands as the last two rounds. Now, interestingly, I haven't seen Jinx play it. I would love to see a Jinx pop up here for either team. I think she's a very, very strong character right now. Even with the Braum gone, I'm sure she can get a bit of value. And we see a Zed locked in for a UCF Academy. It looks like Stay Frosty is not messing around. This is his sort of main champion. I'd say I really would expect the Zed to be banned over the Kassadin. It looks like Hollow Esports was just trying to capitalize on the sort of lack of AP champs in his pool. Um, but he's really just going pedal to the metal with his Zed pick. He's saying he will win lane and he will carry the game for his team. That's what this first pick Zed is saying, and Hollow Esports responds with the Yone. Which is certainly an interesting response. I know it's something that he does have in his kit to some degree. I know he's a very powerful Yasuo player. I'm almost surprised to not see that, but I don't know the matchup especially well. We also see a Sejuani come out for Hollow Esports. Mike Beeston taking a more supportive, tanky role. Looks like he's not looking to whip out his Kindred in any of these games. She's been left open every time. She just hasn't been a priority, I suppose. And UCF locks Smolder. I would not be super surprised to see Smolder Sona. I know it's a composition that had some popularity, and I know it's something that UCF has at their fingertips. It's a little bit hard to pick Smolder Sona just because both of those characters are pretty weak in the early game. Hollow Esports does have both of their bot lane picks available still to them. And we do see Mordekaiser come out for UCF. I would not at all be surprised if that were Weemeister in the jungle. Ordelian really doesn't seem to play any Mordekaiser. I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, just because it's a character that most people have tried once or twice. Um, and it's certainly not the worst thing in the world, but I think that's probably a Mordekaiser jungle. Hollow Esports locks in the Seraphine ADC. I'm almost certain that is a Seraphine ADC. And it could be that they're looking to follow that up with a Sona, which I certainly wouldn't mind, but I feel like their team is a little bit lacking in damage. I don't know if Seraphine Yone. No, they look to ban the Sona. It looks like it is on their radar, but they do not want to take advantage of it. It looks like UCF is not expecting the Seraphine to be in the ADC role. They're going to ban out the Ashe. I don't think that's a bad idea. Junior does play Ashe, and I don't know how much Seraphine Sergeant Goblin plays. It was actually the one member I wasn't able to research before getting into this cast. I don't think the Ashe is the worst ban in the world. I think Seraphine could have been flex support. We also see a Pike ban hovered by Hollow Esports. They're really looking to put a lot of pressure in the bot lane this game. 3 bans going the way of the support would honestly be pretty impressive. I think that Proof Opossum is a pretty solid player, but I am surprised to see him being majority of the bans kind of player. And we also, once again, get a Rumble ban from UCF. I think it carries a little bit less weight this game, just because of the Seraphine ADC that is the AP damage kind of locked in for Hollow. It's nice to have something else, but it's just not as necessary as it might otherwise be. And we see an Alistair come out. Really interesting. I really feel like Hollow is lacking in damage. But I guess we'll sort of come to a final conclusion once they have their final pick. And UCF pulls out the Melio, which I think is an excellent option. Yone, Sejuani, Seraphine, Alistair, all of them are just loaded with CC. Yone with knockups and stun, Sejuani stun, Seraphine with the very famous charm, and of course her root, Alistair knockup stun. There's a load of CC on the side of Hollow Esports, and Melio is just the perfect counter as Zac locked in. That's a little strange. I thought that this was Fearless, but I guess not. Um, and we see that responded to with a Camille. Um, and I do think Camille is a character that deals damage pretty effectively. I don't know if she'll be enough to round out her team. And I don't know if I'm going to get a response to my Fearless question. Looks like no, I am not going to get a response to my Fearless question. um, looks like the lobby has been changed to be a 5 versus 5 blind pick. We will get to see everyone lock in their characters quite a bit faster than the tournament selection. Team comps. So I think both teams are fighting pretty obvious front to back comps. UCF Academy maybe leaning a little bit more into a pick comp, but definitely front to back. Um, Hollow Esports, absolutely front to back. Seraphine, Sejuani, Yone, Alistair, it just screams, we want to run at you and run over you. It could be that they want to play in a sort of pick comp away. With the amount of lockdown they have, it's definitely possible, and I think Camille fits into that idea a little bit better. Um, but I don't know if that's necessarily how they'll want to play. They've definitely been looking for team fights over these past couple of games. Um, and I think that so many of their characters have such excellent team fighting ults that they won't be able to really resist that. I think a lot of pressure is going to come onto Proof Possum this game. The Melio ult really has so much value into this team. Um, and it's going to be important to choose this moment correctly. I do think into Seraphine Alistair, the Smolder is going to have a pretty solid opportunity to scale. Just off of this draft, I put a little bit more favor towards Team UCF Academy. I don't know the Camille into Mordekaiser matchup. That is something I will double check. I would hope that Camille absolutely stomps Mordekaiser. I hope this is a 100-0 type of matchup because this being locked in last has a lot of pressure. Like, if this is not a good choice, then it is sort of disastrous. And it's an even matchup. We have been seeing Spryrain come out on top again and again, but so I don't think he'll have a lot of trouble in the lane. But I just don't know if Camille is really the answer to round out the composition for his team. Um, like even a Darius might have been more preferable. I guess I don't know how Darius does in a Mordekaiser. I just really feel like Hollow is lacking in damage. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I might just not respect Yoni and Seraphine's damage enough. I know Seraphine hits quite hard, but being a mage, she doesn't have the opportunity to hit again and again and again. Honestly, maybe an Ambessa would have made me happy. We'll just have to see. 30 minutes or 30 seconds until the match starts, and I'm sure about 30 minutes until the match ends. I think we're definitely going to see this Sejuani pathing downwards. Probably going to see the Zac pathing downwards as well. It's what's been going on for both of the past couple of games, but I think that the amount of CC available between the Seraphine and the Alistair is just so much that it's impossible to not want to look for something, a gank in that lane. We are getting into the match now.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Minions have spawned.
Sorry about that. Took that time to refill my water. So we do see Mike Beeston clearing downwards, but interestingly, Remeister is clearing upwards. I do think it's probably a bit more favorable for him. We were expecting Ordelian to struggle a little bit into this Camille player. I think giving him that early help that the Zac has to offer is not a bad call. Zac is, of course, a little bit weak before his first back, so it could just be a sort of nothing burger that he's walking upwards, but clearly Spryrain doesn't seem to think so. Placing a very, maybe not very, somewhat deep ward. I would have liked to see it go over the wall, but he just didn't want to offer that time. We're seeing Junard and Sergeant Goblin desperately trying to get the wave under tower, trying to get it to bounce back so that Mike Beeston can get a solid enough gank onto the bot lane early. And it looks like they have achieved their goal. This wave is pushing towards the team in red. Sergeant Goblin going in, Junior trading a bit onto Fireball, hitting the wave a little bit. Not sure I'm a huge fan of that. Ultimately, it should work out though. Wow, no, they just do not care about the wave state at all. Sergeant Goblin hits an engage on a Fireball. Junior pokes, follows up with a bit of poke, and he doesn't have a lot of mana left. And Mike Beeston is here, but just because of the absolutely terrible wave control, he's really not able to do anything. Zac is now mid, and it looks like he's acutely aware of how much danger he's in. He just walks away, takes the long path back to tower. Junard is presently sitting at very little mana. Fireball as well is sitting at very little mana. Neither ADC has especially scary kill threat right now, and that ends up being super strongly in the favor of UCF Academy. Fireball is just trying to scale this game, and if there is nothing happening in lane, then he is doing exactly what he wants to be doing. Spryrain as well is taking quite a bit of damage from Ordelian. Looks like the Camille just isn't performing exactly as powerfully as he might have hoped. Remeister as well, ganking bot, very nearly cutting down Sergeant Goblin, but the Alistair does manage to survive. Mike Beeston now engaging onto the Mordekaiser, and with the despite Ordelian's flash, with the use of Mike Beeston's flash, Spryrain is able to collect a kill. It's exactly what he needed. He looked like he was having a little bit of a rough time there, but it should be very much in favor of the Camille at this point. Stay Frosty. Honestly, not doing as well as I thought he'd be doing. He's certainly not doing anything wrong on the Zed. But his CS is imperfect and he hasn't gotten a kill on Key yet, so it could just be that Key is playing this very excellently on the Yone. But I really would have expected this Zed to be in a really strong position by now, and he's just not. The first Drake, Mountain Drake, has spawned. I would say Hollow Esports is in a slightly better position to take it. Stay Frosty is without teleport and at half health. He's also without teleport, but quite a bit healthier. He does have his ult up and available. Sergeant Goblin goes in on Emilio. Proof of Possum definitely takes a bit of damage. Fireball is dishing damage out onto Junard. He now manages to kill Stay Frosty on his signature champion. Really quite impressive play by the mid laner in red. And it looks like off of that kill and also off of Mike Beestom's aggression towards the bot lane, this first Drake will be going over to Hollow Esports. Zach is doing what he can to sort of counter this by being present in the top lane. He's taking care of a scuttle, but I don't think the wave's in a really great spot for him to gank after he clears the scuttle. So Spyrain will be completely allowed to continue sitting pretty. Mike Beestom pulls out the, I want to call it a glacial bola, glacial risen, bleh, onto the ADC of UCF Academy. A perfect hit, and he is cut down. Key taking a little bit of a questionable trade. Stay Frosty has ult, and this Yone does not. We do see the Zed ult come out here, and Stay Frosty does kill the Yone. I think Key just probably wasn't thinking about it. I think that was pretty clearly not the best play, but he was just overconfident from his previous kill. He was happy about the damage he had gotten from his trade, and he just wasn't considering Zed's kill pressure. Weemeister taking Mike Beestom's Raptors in front of him. This is incredibly offensive if you're a jungler player. It's a monstrous crime. And he pulls it off, he gets away with it, he walks away. Unscathed. Almost. Juner now getting some very solid trades onto Fireball. Dodges Akshu excellently. Presently, this Smolder does have ult, and the Seraphine does not. I would say the Seraphine's in a bit of a rough situation, especially with the wave pushing out the Alistar on the top side of the map. I don't think the Seraphine realizes just how much trouble she's in. And at Proof of Possum gets a little bit of a trade. Fireball not there to follow up on it. Now, of course, because Alistar is on the top side of the map, we will be seeing all three grubs go over once again to Hollow Esports. Mike Beestom putting out an excellent performance in the jungle. He's been around the map, he's been top, he's been bot, he's taken every objective so far. And he has a competitive CS with a Zac. He's looking for something mid. He is, of course, on a ward, so he will not be getting anything. The next big objective will be a Cloud Drake. It's about 2 minutes away. It's a good long while. We shouldn't be seeing too much fighting around the map, or too much big fighting around the map. There might be lane skirmishes, but even lane skirmishes we really shouldn't be seeing at this point. As there is no objective to fight over. Both junglers are on the bottom side of the map. Hollow Esports has slightly better vision in the area. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Mike Beestom to gank bot. Spyrain gets a fantastic trade onto Ordelian as Mordekaiser is now in a bit of a rough situation. About 2 more bad trades away from death. Mordekaiser, of course, has pretty excellent sustain, but as long as this Camille keeps getting these trades... Oh! Actually manages to eat 2 tower shots and misses the stun off the wall and is still winning trades. I think that Spyrain is just far enough ahead at this point. He flashes, does not ignite, no, does not have ignite. Very, very barely does not kill Ordelian. However, I think he will escape Weemeister. And Mike Beestom is now coming in onto this Zac, and we will see the jungler of UCF Academy go down. Additionally, Ordelian walks up, Spyrain tries a neat little trick and is just immediately shut down by the Mordekaiser. Junard hits a great, what's it called? Is it Encore? Yeah, a fantastic Encore. Unfortunately, the Melio ult is just able to cleanse it, and we do see the flash forced out from Junard. Additionally, Fireball tries to flash away, but it ends up being pointless. Now, Proof Opossum is on the run doing his best to net a kill, but I think he's just a little bit too greedy, maybe overestimating his damage a little bit too much. And it does look like the Seraphine's going to run him down. That being said, Junior is having a very tough time hitting shots, and in the end, Junior does get the kill, and Proof Opossum takes the shutdown on the Seraphine, which is honestly pretty bad. Stay Frosty had roamed down for that and was seconds away from being able to engage on the Seraphine. I think that there was a sort of miscommunication between the mid laner and the support of UCF Academy. That definitely could have gone more in their favor. But whether intentional or accidental, Emilio was the one that got the shutdown. And now he's laning against a Smolder. Quite a different matchup, I think. Is going to be quite a bit harder for this Yone to triumph, but it was only momentary. Of course, lane quests make swapping quite a bit harder, or quite a bit more of an investment. Maybe not investment, what's the word? You have more losses for doing it. Surgical Goblin goes in, knocks up Fireball, stuns Fireball. Junior hitting some fantastic slows. We do see the mom come out, but doesn't really lead to anything significant. Stay Frosty does bust out the Zed ult to dodge just a bit of Yone damage. However, Key is still sitting on his ult, the Fate Sealed. And Stay Frosty has Flash alone to escape it. Mike Beeston is lurking around the top side of the map. It looks like he wants to go for a little something on the Zed, but I don't think he's going to get it. He's now lurking towards the top. Ordelian should be aware, and it looks like he's not going to get caught out at all. He's taking a good amount of poke from Stay Frosty here. I do think that this Yone is just going to look to recall, so it doesn't matter too much, but could have been something. Sergeant Goblin deals a bit of damage to Proof Opossum, gets caught out, however slightly, by Weemeister. Weemeister just taking tower shot after tower shot, and eventually we do see Junior kill Proof Opossum, and Weemeister will now be barely surviving. Mike Beeston did dump all his abilities on the Zex, so it might be a little bit difficult, but Fireball does go down. In the meantime, we've seen the Zed roam down, Junior now taking a load of damage, and I think Stay Frosty will manage to survive. He didn't even have to use Flash, and the Fate Sealed whiffs. Sergeant Goblin making a beeline for the top side of the map. Roughly 20 seconds until Rift Herald spawns. Hollow Esports is really just looking to be ready for when that comes. Both top laners do have TP available to them. Spryrain is considering backing, but is looking instead for a trade onto Ordelian. Doesn't really get what he's going for, but in the end he stays in the lane. Sergeant Goblin returning from its journey to the top side of the map. Spryrain gets a pretty healthy engage onto Ordelian, ults onto him, and we do see the Mordekaiser fall here. I do think that should be a sort of sign for Hollow Esports that Herald is available. Mike Beeston is on the bottom side of the map, however. Thanks to Encore, gets a kill onto Proof Opossum, but I don't know if that's really worth sacrificing the Rift Herald for. Sergeant Goblin knocks Fireball away thanks to a flash from the Smolder. It does mean that Smolder is without flash now, but I think Junard is a little bit low. Might not be wise to try and contest this baby dragon under tower right now. But it looks like this Seraphine really wants it, uh, electing for Slaughter Wave Clear in favor of maybe hitting an ability. I'm not a big fan of that, but it's what he's looking for. Zac, topside, gets a engage onto Spryrain. It's just not enough. The Mordekaiser's not there. And ultimately, one auto attack onto the Camille is all that came from that. Next Drake, Chemtech Drake, shows that it will be a Chemtech Soul. Is spawning in 15 seconds. Both mid laners have both Flash and Ult up and available to them. Both top laners have Teleport available to them. I doubt we'll be seeing any top lane influence over this Drake. But you know, it's possible. And Weemeister starts Chemtech Drake. Now, Chemtech Drake is a little bit scary to start, just because out of all the dragons, it deals the most damage, and it deals sort of ramping damage the longer it's fought. In the top lane, we do see Spryrain take down Ordelian. Meanwhile, Proof Opossum sacrifices himself to get his team space for the Chemtech Drake. Actually, a really great snipe through the wall by Key there. I'm kind of unsure whether or not that was intentional, but it was a very good play if it was. Weemeister forces Flash out of Junard. It looks like team at UCF did manage to take the dragon, but they lost a lot of their members for it. And gold-wise, I don't know if the Drake was especially worth it for them. Fireball getting caught out by Sergeant Goblin, really not respecting the damage that this Alistar is able to deal. However, Goblin takes a couple extra tower shots. He doesn't need to, but he takes so little damage just because of how much armor he already has stacked that it doesn't matter too much. Additionally, in the Chaos, Spryrain was able to take both the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 in that time that the Mordekaiser is dead. Baron, roughly 80 seconds away. Neither team is especially set up for it. Ordelian is getting engaged upon by Key, however Weemeister is present and looking. In the top lane, Spryrain is putting Stay Frosty through the ringer. The Zed does go down at the hands of this incredibly strong Camille. I don't know if... I don't think any member of Team UCF can realistically contest this Camille 1v1. I don't think a fight will be close at all. Sergeant Goblin doing his best. He does go down. Junard is quite low. Mike Beeston is here. Misses the Glacial Prison. Fireball is pretty low. Oh, Junard hits a great encore. Excellent follow-up to Mike Beeston's engage. I do think this Melio is short to follow. Probably will be going down at the hands of Key. Yeah. Fate Sealed invested for the little Ixtal boy. I don't know if that was completely necessary, but gold is gold. Now Baron has spawned. And it looks like Hollow Esports is going to be contesting this Baron, at the very least pressuring this Baron immediately. And it kind of looks like it'll be difficult for their opponents to contest it, really. UCF Academy is aware. There was a blue ward placed on the Baron, and it looks like they are opting to contest. Immediately, Hollow Esports drops the Baron and goes for Fireball. They do not get him. However, Stay Frosty donates himself. Weemeister also jumps in, performing a lot of lockdown, but it's really just not enough. And Ordelian is now in, swinging on Mike Beeston. He does go down at the hands of Key. The only member remaining for UCF is Proof Opossum, and Spryrain pulls out the Camille ult, the Hextech Ultimatum. And once again, we see this Melio go down. Now, I was initially concerned about um, Team Hollow Esports' damage, but it looks like they've just gained enough of a lead that it's really not a concern. They have enough AoE, and their AoE is just hitting the whole opposing team every single time. They're just hitting everyone with everything, and if they do that, that'll be enough damage to kill the whole enemy team, or the whole opposing team. I think that they are a very, very strong front-to-back teamfight comp into another front-to-back teamfight comp. And I think with a Smolder, UCF Academy looks at this and thinks front to back, but I feel like they need to be playing their composition differently if they hope to win a team fight. It could also be that they're just so incredibly behind in gold. I think this is maybe the biggest gold difference we've seen out of the games today. But UCF is just so incredibly behind in gold that they can't win a fight regardless of what they do. I don't think that's true. I think there's often outplayability in this game, but UCF Academy just does not have that available to them. This Camille is flying around the bottom side of the map, the red jungle of the blue team. Really picks up 2 kills. Picks up a kill, causes another kill. And this Chemtech Drake will be going over to Hollow Esports. Now, Hollow Esports does still have a Baron buff available to them, Spiraling making very effective use of it, shoving bot lane. I would expect this tier 2 to go down. Honestly, the Hextech ultimatum is still available. I think the Zed can go down under tower. Zed, of course, is a very slippery character. He has Flash available to him, he has the Shadow Step available to him, and he has his ultimate still available to him. Might be a little bit more difficult than anyone else to take down, but I'm sure this Camille has the damage to do it. She really just has to right-click on you and you go down. Key getting looked upon. Maybe in a bit of trouble here. I think he's far enough away that he shouldn't get completely caught out. And Stay Frosty is doing his best against this Camille. It looks like Spiraling has opted to respect the Zed. Or more likely, respect the Zac and the Melio walking downwards. At this point, it's sort of a stalemate kind of state. Baron buff probably only up for like one more wave. Yeah, the Baron buff is on the cusp of ending. So both teams are sort of just fighting based off of the gold value that each individual member has. Which, of course, every member of Hollow Esports is quite a bit more powerful than every member of UCF Academy in this moment. But I don't know if they're really powerful enough to take towers. Sprybrain just constantly looking for an angle on this bot tier 2, slowly inching it down. Stay Frosty has pretty excellent wave clear though. Mike Beestum now present for the tower dive. The Zed gets hit with the Hextech ultimatum, however the Camille is sort of snagged out of it by the Shadow Step. It's a very unique interaction, but it does end up canceling the Camille ult. However, the Zed does go down, and with the Zed, shortly follows the tier 2 Key, 2v1ing Ordelian, and Weemeister does actually manage to win the 2v1. And I think that Weemeister had an opportunity to get away, but not once the bot laners of Hollow Esports showed up. Sergeant Goblin now 2v1ing under the Nexus turrets. I don't know if he realized quite how strong the Smolder was at this point, but the Alistair is forced to flash away. A bit of an overextension, maybe buying time for his team. The Smolder wasn't stopping any of the inhibs from dropping in that time. He now forced a 2v1 two of the scariest members of UCF Academy, and he does not win this 2v1. Spryrain running down Stay Frosty, flashes, Hextech ultimatums, and the Zed is dead. Junard is getting chased by the Zac, and Emilio hits an excellent encore. Looks like Emilio will be going down. Mike's Beastum flashes forward, hits Weemeister with the stun, follows up with the Glacial Prison. Ordelian getting chased down by Spryrain. He switches targets onto Fireball. The Smolder is immediately put at half health. I think the game is going to be ending right here. All three inhibitors are down. Those super minions are walking in 6 every 25 seconds now. It's very hard to hold a 3 inhib open Nexus at this in this recent patch in this year. And this game does go into the hands of Hollow Esports. They appear to be a little ruder than their opponents, maybe just giving the opportunity for chatter before the game ends. But the game does end. And with that, I think that will be the end of the stream. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and thank you chatters for giving your piece. Once again, I have been Finn. It's been my pleasure to commentate, and see you all next week, same time.